People are being told to stay away from 4 miles of beach in Southend after an oil spill this weekend. It leaked from a ship in the Thames estuary heading for Tilbury Docks. Gareth George is in Southend now.
Well, Stuart, Essex doesn't get much better than this. It must almost look like I'm standing in a picture postcard. The pier stretching about a mile out into the Thames estuary behind me. Even a couple of fishing boats on the mud flats there. But it hasn't been the best of days in Southend. That's because the public has been asked to steer clear of a long stretch of beach. And it runs from where I'm standing now all the way down the coast, about 4 miles down the coast. This stretch of beach you can see now all the way down to the Shoebury Coast Guard station about 4 miles away. And the reason is an oil spill.
Fuel oil dripping onto a beach in Essex, up to 500 litres, spilt by an ageing ship sailing up the Thames estuary bound for Tilbury Docks in London.
You might have driven an old car early in your driving career and maybe it dripped a small amount of oil. Well, it's precisely the same with ships and mechanical failures, as this appears to have been, undetected during the night, looked as though it may have caused the oil to enter the water.
Canvey Island caught the worst of it. Beachfront traders there were fed up. Takings were down.
In fact, we closed yesterday earlier than we ever normally would do on Sunday because it was just pointless. As soon as the people saw the signs, then you don't come, do you? Certainly not with children.
The shipping lanes are always busy here. Spills do happen, but at least this one appeared accidental. Southend Council warned day trippers to stay away from 4 miles of beach.
If we were to try and close these beaches, the amount of manpower that we'd have to put into it, I think, is over the top. We are asking people to use some common sense. There is a hazard out there.
It was nasty stuff, but the Environment Agency said there were no reports fish or seabirds had been killed.
A bit more information from Southend Council about the clean-up. Pollution control experts have told them they've got to do something about the oil because if they leave it on the beaches, the dollops will maybe just be washed back out into the estuary on the next tide. So tomorrow morning, a clean-up team armed with shovels will have the unenviable task of working their way along the beach here, bagging up any dollops of oil they can find so they can be taken away.
Gareth, thank you very much.
The deaths of a man and woman whose bodies were found in a car at an industrial estate in Braintree are being treated as unexplained. The emergency services were called this morning and found what's described as a noxious substance inside the vehicle. Nearby industrial units were evacuated. Essex firefighters have resumed their industrial action today in a row over cuts in frontline services. Members of the Fire Brigades Union are refusing to do overtime and cover staffing shortages. Their long-running dispute started last year.
Animal welfare officers believe the high price of straw and hay is putting the lives of horses at risk. They're worried that more animals will be abandoned because their owners can't afford to keep them.
Mervyn today is well cared for and a healthy weight, but 7 months ago it was a different story. This is Mervyn emaciated, neglected by his owner. He's just one of a growing number of horses abandoned because of the high cost of hay.
Food is something you cannot compromise on. Other things can go by the wayside, but for a happy, healthy horse, they must have the correct amount of forage for their weight and the exercise they do. As with the kennels and catteries, they've had increased animals dumped and that. I'm sure that would be the same with horses, I'm sure.
People that I know have had horses for years, some will probably have to get rid of them because they can't afford to feed them. It's gone up so much and the feed's gone up, everything's gone up, you know.
Poor weather has pushed the price of hay up to £6 a bale. By January it could reach £9. Horse owners are being warned to take action now.
What people need to do is they need to plan ahead for the winter months. They need to make sure that they've got enough hay in now, because if they want to try and buy hay in January, February time, they could find it's much more expensive than it is now. And they also need to look at possibly alternative sources of feed.
The only hope is for a mild autumn, so horses can graze outside for longer. If not, welfare officers are anticipating an increase in abandoned animals this winter. Faye Southwell, BBC Look East.
The airline Flybe, which operates out of Norwich, was one of only 3 major airlines in Europe to have made a profit during the economic downturn. It made a pre-tax profit of £5.7 million, but they lost 100,000 passengers in the same period. The former MP for Norwich South, Charles Clarke, is becoming a visiting professor at the University of East Anglia. The former Labour Home Secretary lost his seat to the Lib Dems at the last election. Mr Clarke will be based at the School of Political, Social and International Studies.
Now, it's a year ago today that a unique wave power machine built in Lowestoft came to grief off our coast. The multi-million-pound machine was being towed out for sea trials when it capsized off Southwold. It could be another year before it's finally repaired and put to the test.
In a quiet corner of a Lowestoft shipyard, they're still mending the wave power machine, one that promises much and has cost millions, but has so far failed to deliver. A year ago it sailed out of Lowestoft for sea trials off Southwold, but it never got that far. It capsized on the way and the exercise was abandoned.
It was a terrible blow after all the effort that everyone involved in the project had put in. But it had nothing to do with the core technology. It was simply an incident that happened during the tow with the mooring system and nothing to do with the core technology. Water got into the mooring system and it became unstable and caused the capsize.
The platform is made up of floats. Waves push them up and down and generators produce electricity using electromagnetic technology. It could power thousands of homes. For 6 months the platform stood in a salvage yard. Now engineers are refurbishing the generators and building a test bed. Rather than putting it out to sea on its own, the idea now is to attach it to another structure, such as a wind farm.
Clearly there's waves that are present where the wind is also there, and the cables are already in place to bring the power that's generated from the sea back to shore. It's absolutely not a dead duck. It's the core technology is absolutely rock solid.
And they hope to put that technology to the test again in sea trials next year. Richard Bond, BBC Look East, Lowestoft.